Hi kitty cats, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be talking about something about myself and I've wanted to do this video for a very long time and it's basically going to be talking about a rare condition I suffer from called Fibrous Dysplasia, and that is a bit tongue twisting, so for the time being I'm going to call it FD, which is what we basically call it. I've got a piece of paper here. What I may need to look out in, like, when I'm talking about something, because sometimes I forget what I'm going to say. So I've got a little guide here to help me through it. Right, so I'm first going to explain what the condition is. It's an uncommon bone disorder, which it's like scar-like tissue, which is what the fibrosis is, and it develops in the normal bone, and it can also weaken and affect the bone and cause it to deform or fracture. Mine's in my skull, so I've basically got it all around my eyes, sort of around here, my nose here. Also be found in other parts of your body. It's not just the skull. It can be in the legs, the arms, the spines, the pelvis, anywhere. It can be in any part where the bones are, basically. It can be, apparently you are born with it, but it's that rare, it's just so hard to find. I was 24 when I found out that I got it. I found mine through my diabetes, and I also talk about that in another video. But basically I went for a diabetes eye screening test and I couldn't see out of my left eye, and they sort of looked at it and thought, okay, this is a bit odd, it's nothing to do with diabetes, it's not diabetes related at all, and I couldn't see the numbers and the letters on the screen they have at these screening tests. So what they decided to do then, they transferred me to a hospital so they can check all behind the eyes and the nerves and everything else, and they discovered then that that there was something that was pressing on the bone, and they could see something behind the eye that they thought that could cause the deterioration in my eye. So from then on they transferred me to another hospital, and I had to go for brain scan, blood tests, CT scans, MRI scans, different type of eye tests, all sorts. And then it happened all pretty quick, so I was just worried because we didn't know what it was, and either did they. And it come to a point where they called me in, they was like, right, you've got this condition called Fibrous Dysplasia. They told me what it was and what could happen, and they said basically, right, if we don't operate you could lose the eyesight in your left eye. And they also didn't want the same thing to happen in my right eye. So basically I went for an appointment on the Wednesday, and they're basically like, right, we're operating on the Friday because it's serious, it's an emergency. So that's what they did. They also discovered that my optic nerve was very pale to what it's meant to be. So they explained everything to me, what they needed to do. I was being seen by ENT, I was being seen by ophthalmology, I'm also being seen through endocrine. So it is, you do see a lot of people throughout this because it is based on different things. And when they told me that I could lose my eyesight, it was a pretty big shock, because to be told that you could be blind or lose your eyesight, it is pretty scary, and I don't want that to happen, especially at my age. I'm 27 now and I am basically partially blind in my left eye. As you can probably see, I do have a bit of a lazy eye as well, and that's obviously because the bone is pressing the optic nerve, so it does cause my eye to go to the left a little bit. But it doesn't really bother me, like, you know, I get on with it day to day. So I had on the Friday, I was working at this time and I had to quit my job because it was terrifying, like, it was scary. I was going for a major operation. I didn't know how long I was going to be off work or anything. So yeah, on the Friday I went in for an operation. I absolutely had no time to prepare whatsoever. It was within a couple of days I was having this operation, and I was still trying to deal with what they told me. My parents were worried, my two brothers were worried, and we just didn't know what to expect. Rather than me being admitted to hospital on the Friday, they asked me to come in on the Thursday night and stay. So the next morning was my operation. I was diagnosed. Sorry, I had to disappear for a minute. My dog decided she wanted to go out. But anyway, let's carry on talking about what happened. So yeah, so I went in on the Thursday to have the operation Friday morning, and I had to go down for a final scan before going into theatre, and I also had to have a cannula in so that they can take bloods, and because I was diabetic as well, they also had to check my blood every like few minutes or few hours or whatever. I'm not really sure. But yeah, and the doctors and surgeons come and saw me probably an hour before I was actually going into theatre. They just told me the procedure, what they were going to do, and the risks, and basically what they needed to do was they explained that I was going up through my nose with this special equipment, and they was going to chip and decompress the bone so that the optic nerve was able to go through. So yeah, I was in theatre for 7 hours, and it was actually 9:30 I went in, and I just remember going into this theatre room. I was absolutely terrified. I said bye to my parents and just I'd tell them that I was okay and I was fine. I'm a pretty strong person when it comes to operations and stuff like that. Even though I was absolutely terrified, I knew I was going to be okay. I knew this operation was being done by specialists, and I knew I was going to be fine. I knew I was going to be okay, and I knew I'd be in safe hands. So yeah, and I said, gave my mum and dad both a kiss. So I was taken down to the room, and they did everything. Took my bloods, done blood tests, and put the cannula in. And so that was it until I basically woke up after this operation. They also said to me when they was putting me to sleep, is count to 10, and I think I only got to 5 and I was pretty much out of it. But I do remember after waking up I was absolutely terrified because all I wanted was my mum. And I remember it was quite a big operation. I remember just crying, and I was sick. I think because I felt nauseous. I think that's the word, but I don't know. So yeah, and after my operation, I was in the recovery room for about an hour or so before they could take me back up to where my ward was, and I couldn't really talk. I remember that I had these splint things up in my nose. Obviously, where there was like putting things up my nose, and it kind of sort of damaged the bone in my nose a little bit. So I had to have these splint things to hold my nose together. And I was in hospital for about a week before I could go home. and unfortunately I could have gone home earlier, but because I had spinal fluid leak from my nose, which wasn't very nice, and let's be very careful with that in case I need to go into theatre again for them to fix it. So yeah, eventually when I went home, I spent most of my time in bed really, because I just felt so unwell and I was tired, I was weak. I wasn't really eating very well either. And after 2 weeks, I think it was actually worked out to 3 weeks, because they tried to get me an appointment as soon as possible after my operation to see how things were, to get these splint things out of my nose. And it was just terrible because I couldn't really blow my nose or anything like that because it was just so sore. But when I had these splint things out of my nose, it was such a relief. It just felt so good. Like, yeah, I could actually breathe, which was a good thing. So yeah, I was actually off work for about 6 months. Actually no, I think it was a bit longer than that. I actually don't remember. But before I could actually go back to work. But then unfortunately 18 months later, the bone actually grew back on my optic nerve. So I had to go in for another operation, which was very unfortunate. But the second time round, it wasn't as bad. We had a lot more preparation time and we knew what was going to happen and what the risks were this time. So it wasn't as serious what it was, but we knew a lot more of what was going to happen. And this time I was actually in on the Friday and out on the Saturday, because I felt a lot more better. As before, I was actually on morphine when I had my first operation, and yeah, and I just remember being out of it. And you know, I suppose if you've ever been on morphine before, you know how delusional you get, how, you know, I keep coming up with the most random silly things. I'm not going to go through that though, because yeah, I don't want to embarrass myself. So, and from my last operation, I haven't actually had any bone growing back, which is very good. But it could still be growing, but they don't know how fast or how quick or anything like that. But fingers crossed, everything's still good. I'm going for a follow-up appointment next month for my eyes and also ENT. But for now, everything's really stable. And through having Fibrous Dysplasia, I've actually met some really nice people who suffer the same condition. Like, considering it's rare, there's actually a lot of people out there that have it, which you don't know about. But there's this really good group on Facebook. So if you've got Facebook and you've got Fibrous Dysplasia, make sure you look out for it. I'll put the link below so you can click on it, because I've met some people, some amazing people all over the world, and they talk about their recovery. They talk about how it affects them, and it's finding out different things from different people, how they was diagnosed with it. There's always people asking questions about different things, and it's a pretty interesting website. There's also a website actually as well. It's a pretty good Facebook page. You have a question to ask or anything like that. So, and if you ever need to ask me a question or need some advice or anything, please get in contact with me. You can find me on Facebook, or you can either send me a message on here. Whichever way you want to get in contact with me, I'm happy to ask you questions. I'm happy to give you advice. I'm happy to tell you my story. So yeah, that is the end of this video. I really appreciate you watching. I'd really appreciate it if you could share this video so it goes out to, well, the world, because I want people to watch this video and see that they're not alone, and there's other people out there like us, and we actually call ourselves warriors as well, because, well, we are, like, you know, it's not an easy condition to live with. Like, I don't, you know, I deal with mine day to day. It's hard, like, you know, I struggle with stuff, and I get headaches quite often, and I feel very tired, and there's a lot of stuff I can't, I have to deal with, and as well with my diabetes on top, so I suppose you can imagine what that's like. But I will definitely do a video about the diabetes soon. But yeah, thank you for watching, and please give me a thumbs up and like this video, and please share it. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, so thank you for watching. Bye.